Everybody, welcome back to Amazon Suspension Trends, my video series covering things I'm noticing that may be alarming to me, may be concerning, and I want to share with you my thoughts on them, some analysis, maybe some questions to ask yourselves. And once again, I'm, of course, Chris McCabe of e-commerce Chris, and former Amazon. Wanted to talk about what Amazonians or Amazon staff may be telling you when you're on calls with account health, calls with seller support. Maybe some of you are dealing with catalog issues, ASIN restrictions, ASIN takedowns. What I'm hearing from people a lot these days is Amazon told me this, Amazon told me that, and sellers are not taking what they hear from Amazon staff with a grain of salt. And what I mean by that is not just considering the source, but considering their level in the company, consider the fact that they might tell you something because it sounds good to tell you, it might not be accurate. You have to fact check things to the extent that you can. Sometimes fact checking means, let's say, for example, you're talking to account health reps. They tell you something that sounds pretty good, seems like it'll fit neatly and concretely into your next appeal for reinstatement. Maybe it's for an ASIN top selling product. Maybe it's for your whole account. But consider that they're trained to tell you things that'll be encouraging. Unless they see absolutely no way you can get something reinstated, they're under some obligation to tell you if there's what they call no path to reinstatement. They don't always do it. But aside from that, they're going to encourage you to appeal again. They've been trained to tell you what they think will be supportive, positive points that you can add or edit into an appeal. It doesn't necessarily mean that following their words to the letter of their law will fix it or will be accepted by the decision makers. You're always going to be talking to people 99% of the time. You'll be talking to an account manager that you pay for. You'll be talking to account health reps, support reps, catalog people, compliance teams if they reach out to you. But most of the time, you're going to be talking to people who are not the ones deciding yay or nay on your reinstatement. There are, of course, some exceptions to this. You email an executive, you email an S-team executive or member, and they have one of their direct report managers call you. Calls are much more frequent than they used to be for emailed appeals. They call you, you have a discussion with them. They might not be involved in the final decision to reinstate your account, but they might have some say in it. So that's a little bit of an exception. I'll handle that in a different video. For now, I just want to encourage you to understand that whenever you're on the phone with these people, you're taking what they say with a grain of salt, and you understand that it might still result in a rejection. You might get closer to the goal. You might actually make progress and learn something about previous appeals that got denied. That's kind of the main crux of what could be useful to you. But it's not written in stone, right? That might be wrong. Just because it comes out of the mouth of somebody who works at Amazon, taken from somebody who worked there for several years. Just because they say it doesn't mean it's gospel, doesn't mean it's correct, doesn't mean they're quoting for your account, doesn't mean they talked to their boss before they called you or messaged you, if it's written, to verify that what they're saying to you is 100% accurate, right? Now, that's kind of the bad news. The good news is if they're giving you bad info or if they're giving you incorrect information, maybe you can use that. You can set yourself up for a future escalation, a subsequent escalation by citing what they told you. Maybe you don't know it word for word. Maybe you weren't recording the call. That's fine. Giving them the gist of it will probably be shorter anyway, but keep track of names. I still speak with a lot of sellers who talk to people at Amazon who have called them and they don't record their name. I don't know why that's not the first thing that you want to capture. You want to get their name. Hopefully you can get the team that they're working on. Often they do share, if not their title, they'll share with you the team that they work on, but they have to give you a name. They can't say my name is Mr. X. They will not give you a last name, and you don't need a last name, but you need a first name, and you need to record the date and time that they talk to you. It's only good due diligence, right? I can't tell you how many sellers I talk to who forget the name, don't note the name, don't remember it. This is really crucial, important details. So whoever is picking up the phone number on your Amazon account, you want to make sure that person is trained in advance to capture this info because it may work itself into a future escalation for all you know. And then aside from their name, what is the specific instruction they're giving you? What's the detail of their content? Are they just sounding like a copy and paste message? Then maybe the information isn't that useful, right? But it can be useful if you spin that into a future escalation to say, we sent you an escalation. One of your managers contacted us. They didn't know anything. They couldn't guide us. We don't understand why they call, complaining, but in a professional, tactical way, not just saying we get the same gibberish every time, right? They hear that all day long. You have to be sophisticated about it. You have to understand the nuance of the escalation process, of the appeals process. And, unless you're speaking with the man, Andy Jassy himself, CEO of Amazon, which is pretty unlikely, even at an Amazon conference, you're not going to see him running around. Unless you're getting it straight from the horse's mouth at the top of the company, understand that you may be given some misinformation. You may be given something that's a half truth. You might be given something that's half accurate. So you really have to pay attention, be on the ball, take notes. Certainly understand that some of what they say or don't say, if they sound like they're dancing around it or they're avoiding answering your questions, feel free to press them on that and step it up and get some relevant details. If you're missing relevant details because they're not providing them and they're being very vague or very cagey, then yes, try to pin them down. If they refuse to give you anything additional, then try to find out if there's somebody else who knows a little bit more about the situation, who might be even above their pay grade. I wouldn't do that in an insulting way, of course. Those of you who attend things like the Amazon Accelerate conference in Seattle every year probably understand a bit of that nuance in terms of, well, maybe you, the person in Seller Cafe, for example, maybe you can't exactly help me today, but maybe some of your leadership or your senior leadership can. They will understand that because people have successfully escalated things like that previously. Other advice that I would give you in terms of follow-ups, certainly make sure that they understand that you're going to appeal it again. If you get another copy and paste rejection, which if they act like, oh, you won't get that this time, you've talked to me, those days are over, I think they pretty much know that you could get another copy and paste denial, even if you do everything they tell you to. Have that conversation before they hang up with you, if it's a phone call, even if it's just account health reps. If this gets rejected again, if I follow all of your advice, you do this every day, you work at Amazon, you have the ideas, you have the suggestions and the strategy for me. If I get another generic denial, how do I get back in touch with you? Okay, you might not be available every day. How do I reach another member of your team? How do I reach a member of senior leadership? A lot of people that we're talking to lately, especially if they submit an escalation of ours that we've helped them put together, they've hired us to do the work. They tend to get calls from the leadership teams, quote unquote leadership, or the escalation teams, different from getting a call from account health, right? Make a note of that distinction and be willing to suggest it. I'm not saying make something up. Hey, we were supposed to hear back from your escalation team and we didn't. Well, don't say that if you didn't submit an escalation. That won't make any sense and it won't help you. Same with leadership teams. Request a member of those teams to call you, but don't necessarily say, we've already spoken with them before. If you haven't, we've already emailed an escalation in. If you haven't, that's only logical. That only makes sense. So think very, very strategically, especially at the times of year where Amazon's getting lots of appeals. They have to read many more of them an hour than they usually do, right? This is just sound, logical, strategic thinking. This is today's Amazon. This is the appeal environment and the escalation strategy environment that we all inhabit. And whether you're having me or a member of my team or somebody similar to us work on this for you or not, make sure they think and talk the way you hear me right now. Because if they don't, you're probably increasing the odds of denials, additional appeals, more days going by where you're not selling. And it's just kind of continuing the nightmare, which you definitely don't want to add more opportunities for more days and weeks to go by without selling. Any questions on this? Of course, as always, check in with me at e-commerce Chris, and best of luck.